To introduce our guest speaker.
Great pleasure for me today to introduce another chemist. Professor Zender is from the university, I guess we could say, no, if I were to say its proper name, it's Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule of Zurich. And he was president of the board that looks after all of those universities in Switzerland. Now, if you know science in Switzerland, you'll know such things as University of Zurich. Pardon me, not the University of Zurich, that's another school down the street. University, the ETH, as it's referred to in Switzerland, has something in the order of 21 Nobel Prize winners in its past. People who were working there at that time. One of them was Albert Einstein, who you have all heard of. There are lots of names that if you ever look up that list, there are a lot of names there that I'm familiar with, particularly as being a scientist and having been to the ETH a couple of times. So it's most impressive to welcome him to us. He knows a lot about water, and water to a chemist is a fascinating topic. First of all, it wasn't here in the very first formative days. Our atmosphere didn't have water in it. There was methane and ammonia and a few other things. But eventually we've accumulated water. So we're always seem to be ending up with water. There's lots of water problems. But one of the things is that water is our very best solvent. And as a consequence of that, it dissolves everything. So even if you've got a glacier up there that's feeding the water down to you, there's going to be something else in that water. So looking after water is a major problem. So that Professor Zender, he's off tomorrow to Jordan, which has its own type of water problem. They don't have any glaciers or oceans to do much with, and so they have to look after their water in yet a different way. He's been a consultant on water problems in Singapore. He just came back from Singapore a few weeks ago. And Singapore, Holland, if the Swiss put something in their water, the Dutch soon tell them. So, his strategy there too, that he's familiar with those topics. So we have a world expert on water in a macroscopic manner, and I will let him tell you more about the water problems. Professor Zender.
Thank you very much, Bob, for these nice words, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a pleasure to be here. Now, I will not talk about the chemistry of the water. The title I sent to Bob a few weeks ago was what you have now is Water in Alberta's Economy and Reputation. And somehow maybe he thought, well, this must be regulation. No, I will talk about the reputation. And I will talk about the water in Alberta and not the water the world around. Because it's an interesting case here. And I would like to explain you what the case is and what water could actually act positively, but also negatively on the reputation of Alberta. So the title kind of is a little bit very condensed. It sounds a little bit cryptic, and I hope with this title to raise your interest. So to say, what is that? Economics. Oil has to do with economics. A lot of things have to do with economics. Well, we have the bill of the water in the city, but that's less than going to the restaurant for a dinner. So it's kind of marginal, basically. But still, we are attracted by water. Water is something different. It's chemically different, but water talks to you emotionally. And whenever you have a water issue, it must be clear, crystal clear, that with scientific arguments or political arguments, you don't find a solution. Because you have to talk to the feelings of the people. And this is so important. And in this framework, I would like to kind of a little bit show you what the water issues are in Alberta and what is coming onto. And keep that in mind. It is emotional. It's not intellectual. Now, why am I here? So, 2008, a former minister came to Switzerland, Lauren Taylor, and kind of talked me into come to Alberta. My first reaction was, Alberta, are you crazy? It's too cold. And then I said, well, why the heck do you want me to come to Alberta? And he said, you know, because of water issues. And I started to laugh and say, come on, forget it. Canada is probably the place where most of the water is on this globe. So what are you talking about? And then he said, Alberta is special. And we have heard it before also because of Peter Loy. I am in the meantime convinced Alberta is special. And this is actually what keeps me here. If you look where we do need the water, we need the water for people in the cities. We have 2 big cities. We are the only province with 2 big cities of 1 million in Canada. All the other don't have 1 or none. And it's growing. The plans that these cities will grow is there. And we have the immigration. And all these people need water. Each one of us needs water to drink, water to do his hygiene. But also we need the water to produce our food. So agriculture is a big water user. It's not agriculture, it's we, because what we have eaten here is much more than you ever would drink. And just to give you an idea how much water is needed to make food, you need 1,000 liter water or a cubic meter of water under the very best circumstances to produce 1 kilogram of bread. It's a factor of 1,000. Now, mostly we are not sticking to the bread alone, so we are also taking a steak or so, a little bit of meat is better than just dry bread. The moment you go into meat, the factor is once again 10 times higher. That means to get the same amount of energy out of the meat which you would get from 1 kilogram of bread, you would need 10,000 liters or 10 cubic meters of water. So water is very closely related to what we eat and what we do. So this is important. It's not only the drinking water, it's also what comes out of the agriculture. And here in Alberta, we have a very strong agriculture. The agriculture, rain-fed agriculture around this area, or you go to the south where the irrigation is. Alberta has an overproduction in agriculture goods. It does actually more than 1/3 of the total export in agriculture good of Canada comes out of Alberta. Now, how much water do you need to produce the food you're going to export? You probably have no idea. I didn't have an idea either. You have to sit down and calculate it. It's about 17 cubic kilometer per year, which is about 20% of the Lake Athabasca, which you actually export out of this province. So 20% of the content of the Lake Athabasca is every year exported in form kind of water, in form of agriculture good or in virtual water. Interesting. Where is this all going? It goes to Asia. The main customer is Japan. Then comes Mexico, then comes the US. Unfortunately, we didn't have any spaghettis, Italian spaghetti. You have a chance of 50% if you buy in Italy or go to Italy and eat spaghetti that you actually eat wheat from Alberta. The hard wheat, large part goes there. Alberta is feeding a large part of the population and uses the water which is in this province. So if somebody tells you that actually Alberta is not exporting any water at all, it's not true. You export it as agriculture. Interesting. Then you have the special position of Alberta. It's in the rain shadow of the Rocky Mountains, which makes our life more difficult, specifically our down south, because of droughts. It's dry air. We know in March how much water we will have, basically. This is the snowpack in the Rocky Mountains. Interesting. You can make predictions. You can make predictions of the flow. You can actually calculate not on the hour exact or the day exact, but approximately when you need to do additional irrigation if you don't have the rain. The rain comes in addition. It's kind of a gift you got on the top of it. Then Alberta is not only known because of cities and agriculture and the snowpack with the Rocky Mountains. It's known of an industry. It's the oil industry. To extract the oil, you need a lot of water. So you have all the issues here. And don't forget about the environment. You would like to have a nice environment. You would like to go out into the parks and so on, having green trees, not dry trees. Actually, when I came here, the trees had no leaves. It was February the first time. But when the trees still didn't have leaves, beginning of May, I was wondering whether these trees will ever have leaves. In the meantime, I've learned they have. So for nature and for the environment, you need also the water. And Alberta is known for a good environment, for nice parks, for the national parks. So you have all the issues which have to do with water. Water for the people, water for the food, water for the economy, water for nature. Everything in one jurisdiction. This is special, I can tell you. I come around the world. This is very special. It's a rare thing. And this is very fascinating, I can tell you. Because you have all the time special interests. The city would like to have more water, the farmers need more water, the industry, you say they pollute the water and so they should use less water, whatever. So you have a really life around water. So what's internationally now starting to come up is this kind of what the discussion on the nexus. So kind of the interplay between water, food, energy, and environment and security. And you have everything here. You can study it, you can develop policy, you can make actually a showcase. Unfortunately, we don't do enough in this direction. Somehow, maybe you have to come from the outside to see that. But there is much more potential in Alberta to do with this specific location where we are, and the land and the water we have and the climate, is to make showcases how in other jurisdictions the issue about energy and water can be solved in a more intelligent way. So this is what keeps me here. So with that is also a little bit, I have described already the issues, but I said then, what is the role of water in the economy? Well, an easy thing with the water in the economy is when we think about agriculture. But agriculture is about making 2% of the GDP of Alberta. But then oil extraction, oil sands, gas, you need water. It's about 25% of the GDP, depends on the year. Then you have the manufacturing industry, including the forestry. The forests are only growing when there is enough water. It gives another percentage. If you take the tourism and the service industry, which doesn't go up because the restaurant here has to wash your dishes and you have to have enough water. So all these activities need water. If you calculate all the activities together here in Alberta, which are actually needing the water, which cannot function like that without the water, you cover over 50% of the GDP. So now think about it. Water is important here. It actually makes the country run. So basically, what you, it's probably safe to say, if you want to, that Alberta's economy is fueled by the oil. We know all that. But it runs on water. And we can only function if we have both things together. So the economy is very strongly based on what we have here in water and all the oil activity, and I come back to that point. Now, water has also to do with the health. We all know that when we travel around, we drink water which is not clean, we know what happens and so. The big cities here in Alberta are well served with water. EPCOR is doing a good job. In Calgary they are doing a good job. In the bigger cities they are doing a good job. A problem we have here in Alberta is the more rural area, the smaller agglomerations, where groundwater is not treated, is pumped directly, and there is actually an issue with the water quality and also the water treatment once you have used it. It's not unique to Alberta. It's actually an issue which covers all over the western part of North America. It's the hotspots for water quality are actually basically the rural areas. And somehow they always went under the radar. And not much has been done, not only here, but also in other jurisdictions. And I think in the future we need to take a little bit more care of what is going on with the water in the rural area. Because that's a health issue. It's nothing else. People get sick, people don't feel well, and you would like to use them actually in the best shape. How can you go to work when you feel sick? How can you help your family to get over the year when you are sick? So the water is at the base of your personal health. Now the environment, I have already said, also the environment in my eyes is something very specific here. It's in many places around the world. But you have pristine areas. You have nice nature. This attracts tourism. Instead you get money. It actually helps to develop your economy. And it also helps to develop your image. The image of a green, nice Alberta. Go back to the images. But water alone is not only economy and production. Water alone is not only health for all the Albertans. Water alone is not only green environment. Water is the source of innovation. Now you may look at me and say, come on, what are you telling us here? Why should it have anything to do with innovation? Water technology, and we use a lot, and we develop a lot here in Alberta together with everybody else. With the industry, and we have a water demanding industry, which is the oil industry, with high-tech and specific technologies. They need new technologies, new developments. They need innovation. And what you have developed here can actually be sold outside. Because the problem Alberta has with the water is not unique. You find it around the world. The market is out there. If we do here the innovation, we have to go out. Now, why don't we have big water industries here who are producing the water for New York, for Bangkok or so? Why is not all over the world are Canadian companies and specific Albertan companies dealing in all the oil fields with the water issue? Why is it Schlumberger and other companies who are doing that? There is kind of a hesitation, which I have seen now in Alberta in the last years, is to help the industry to develop internationally. We pay and subsidize roads, infrastructure. Why is Alberta not subsidizing a made of Alberta notion to go outside? Because the market is not in Alberta, the market is outside. And water is actually, because of all the issues coming together here in one province, would be a perfect thing to develop the outside market. And I can tell you, many countries around the world do exactly that. If you build the first freeway before the cars go on, it's a subsidized freeway. You are not first going and say everyone who has a car, he has to pay before we're going to build the freeway to Calgary. The government says we get a tax, we build it, and then you go, and then you start to pay tax because you buy a car and whatever. We don't do that with the industry. And I think we should. Because we have the issues here. We have good universities, superb universities with excellent engineers. We have the positive way of developing things here in the water area. And we have a market outside. It needs a helping hand to start this. It would be great. And this would really help to get Alberta even into the time when maybe the fossil fuels are not so abundant anymore. This is kind of a small critic, but that's kind of, yeah, we are here and everybody has to do his own thing. But at the end of the day, it is a societal issue. We want to become more strong economically and not only on one leg. Basically, everything I told you now sounds actually good. It sounds great. But there's a little bit, but you have to change a little bit here and there, and then everything goes well. But now let me take a view from outside the province. And there the view is not as positive as I said. And it is because we somehow are not able to make a positive picture. The picture, if you go outside of the province and ask the people is, what do you know about Alberta? The first word you hear, now, dirty oil. The first time I came to the airport here in Edmonton, there were 5 books about the oil sands. The NGOs are discussing with the government because of the high CO2 output. You probably have no feel. Nobody knows what CO2 is. Well, we know the molecule, but you go to the people in the street and say, what kind of feeling you have with CO2? Well, it's in the gas of the water when we drink club soda or so. Well, I've heard about CO2, but CO2 is not an issue. CO2 is an issue of a small group of people, and somehow we kind of try to follow them and fight the bad image of having CO2. Outside of the province of Alberta, almost nobody cares about the CO2. The image they have are 2 things. These are the ducks which are full of oil. The picture. It's emotion again. It has to do with water. Or the fish with the open jaw, with 2 jaws below, which has been said in the National Geographic, it has been shown all over the world. This is what the oil industry is doing here, so we all know it was a fake picture. But it's a game, and this is even stronger than a duck, is the fish. The fish in water. It comes very close to our life. These are images. You are not talking away about CO2 production. CO2 production is an intellectual discussion, and it's a non-issue. Water is the emotional issue. And I can tell you, I personally wonder why the NGOs haven't picked that up. Because if they would like to go against our industry in this province, it would be the easiest way. Don't write it in the newspaper. It would be the easiest way to go after the water. Because with the water, you hit the people emotionally. And then you can have your mouth full of teeth in discussing. It won't take it away. So what I think and what we are discussing and actually developing is how can we change this image? Not with a PR company, that doesn't really help. It costs a lot of money, you lose a lot of money, they do nice brochures and so that's it. You have to create images, not arguments. You have to create images. And images with water, they speak to the people. Alberta has many good things, and I told you, it is the nature, it is the waters they have, it's the food they produce to export it to the outside world without too much negative effect on the environment. They have cities where people are, at least when it's sunny outside, have a smile on their face because they have enough water, they have good water. Alberta is a place which takes up people with open arms. And yes, it has some oil sand or tar sand industry up north in a relatively pristine area. But you can admit it. It's a big industry. It's a heavy industry. And the heavy industry does actually change something in the landscape. And we are working hard. We are working hard on air pollution. There's no air pollution, almost no air pollution anymore in these areas. Very, very hard work there. So, if we combine that, the water, the environment, the energy we produce for the outside, the food what we do with the agriculture, our cities, the mountains, we can create a few pictures which actually are much stronger than all the critics we have been doing. Images, pictures, strong emotional pictures. And water is the transport of these images. And we should use the strength of what we have here in this province to actually transport that outside. So, kind of, if you want to, in one or two sentences, a conclusion is, if you would like to safeguard a successful future for Alberta, we all must communicate openly and proactively. This is important, proactively, not after the facts. Proactively, of how we manage our water in an environment, in a healthy environment, in livable cities, and with a sound industry. If we fail to do that, we will have in the future more of the trench fights which are going on now. And it will actually cost us a lot of money and will not be as satisfactory. So if we can take the initiative and be proactive and shine this light and make this projection of what Alberta really is, I think, I'm totally convinced this will be for an absolutely successful future of this province and all the people who are living in there. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have time for one or two questions.
Thank you for that presentation. The river valley in Edmonton is a spectacular valley. It's got one of the most unique rivers in Canada, and we should honor that. I didn't hear you mention it in your presentation, but from my perspective, it's a unique asset that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe because when I get up, the first thing I see is the river valley. I live actually on the rim of the river valley, and if I look out of my window, I don't see a house. I'm always thinking I'm living out in the green. It's superb. But I think we have also other pieces. I'm totally with you. But I think we have to, the river valley is for us very important. We understand that, and we have a personal relationship to this river valley. We have other places in addition to this river valley which are unique and really sellable, in quote, or usable to make a positive image of Alberta.
Alan, Gordon, and Bessie.
Thank you very much for your provocative talk. Just a question, can you give us just a sample, a sense of what you see happening in policy and in the way of entrepreneurial kinds of technology enterprises starting in Alberta to address these issues?
I can talk about the entrepreneurial part easier than I do with the policy. So I see it, but I think, let me start with the policy, make another totally provocative statement, and don't take that somehow on the wrong side. I think the politics is too much dealing with water, because politicians cannot get a positive actually profit from dealing with water directly, because water is always controversial, and as I said, it's emotion. And getting two emotional things together, like politics and water, is not good. So if somebody would listen to me, I would say to the government, for your policy, you think about the policy, and then you give it to an institution like a water agency, which is at the arm length of the government outside. They deal with the water issue. If they mess it up, you kick out the CEO. And as a politician, you're in great shape because you have taken action. But somehow I have the feeling here each department wants its piece of the water and kind of turns in circle. This is my policy advice, and I give it free of charge. In the industry, I think it is, I tried to figure out where actually things are a little bit sticky. There are now the big companies coming in, like the GEs and General Electrics and Veolia in the water, and they build up centers here because they see they can actually use and extract some technology towards the outside. If you look in the entrepreneurial area, Alberta is one of the typical smaller in population jurisdictions. When you are totally happy if you create a company, you have a spin-off and you have 50 people, and then you're stuck there. And there is where I think is the policy and the help of the government needed to make the next push. Otherwise, everybody makes enough money just to survive, that's okay. And there it needs it. And this is not subsidy of the private sector. This is helping the economy to develop. And I think that's the made in Alberta issue, is in my eyes the key.
Okay, Gordon and Bessie, we'll have to try to keep our questions short, please.
I would like to ask for a comment. What's happened in Alberta over the past 50 years that most of us here have witnessed is the recession of the glaciers. And the glaciers are the source of our river waters. The trend obviously then is that sometime in the future our glaciers are going to run dry. Our rivers are going to run dry. That's almost like the elephant in the back room.
Good question, and I'm happy that you asked that. The glaciers actually provide the river water only end of July, beginning of August. So in the late season, the water which comes before is snowpack. The big part is snowpack. We will lose that water because we have the glaciers are running dry. As you say, they are retracting and they are going to lose the water. We just have to dam some of the river because of the amount of water we have too much in the spring. At the spring melt, we have to retain and then manage the river flow probably with the dams. What we do here, we do it. You know, the North Saskatchewan River is highly regulated. Because if we would have still the natural flow, that river would fall dry 2 or 3 months per year, as it has before the Abraham Lake was created. And now it's low water for a few days only in the year. So we have to have technological solutions to capture this the big amount of water which comes into the spring, to stretch it into end of August. The glaciers are not bringing the water in the spring. The glaciers bring it end of July in the August area. So it's feasible. We can make solutions. We can find solutions. Thank you.
Bessie?
First of all, I want to tell you that I agree with you when you combined water with emotion and the environment. But what I'm concerned about is the effects that the water with the work that's being done at Fort McMurray. Our Aboriginal brothers are very concerned about contamination and contaminating the watershed. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, the tailing ponds, let's see, we have this industry, and that big industry will have an impact. And we have to show, and actually Alberta does, a lot of work in diminishing this effect. You cannot go to zero. It's almost impossible. It's too big. That's one thing. So I think there is enough, or there is a lot of activity, maybe not yet enough. The problem which I see are the tailing ponds. They are huge. This is 1 cubic kilometer of water. That's not 10 ponds anymore. They are lakes. This is, in my eyes, an issue we have to solve. We have the technology. We could solve it. But it costs. That means it reduces the profit. And if we are taking our effort together to solve this issue of the tailing ponds, I think a lot of this kind of slow infiltration of water which is contaminated into the river will stop. Because these tailing ponds, they lose water. They are built in sand. You don't tell me, and even if you put linings in there, there's always some water somewhere leaking out. This is an issue we have to deal with. And we have to deal with as a province. We have to find a solution. We may get, for a few years, $1 or $2 less per barrel, but with this money you can do it. And we have to do it. I totally agree with you. But you have to communicate that you are aware it is an issue, and that we are doing it, and that we do something. Show it, be transparent, and then you can, an accident can happen, and everybody will be all over us. But if you have been transparent before and transparent after, the uproar will go down quite fast. Things will go into the normal, into the normal pace. Be transparent and show what you do, and show that you understand. This is an issue we have to solve.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, such a fascinating speaker. We could be here for much longer, and I have extended our time a little bit, but I thought the questions were to the point and the interest was there, so I hope you'll forgive me for that. I'd now like to call on Val Braden to give thanks to our speaker.
I think Dr. Zender has made us more aware of the value of water in our society, our personal lives, and all aspects of it. So you've all got a glass of water. And I invite you all to drink it, please, before you leave, so it's not wasted. Because otherwise this will all go down the drain. And it is treated water by Epcor. So enjoy your glass of water so you don't get dehydrated. The ladies and the gentlemen's is right over there as you leave. And I would also like to invite Dr. Judge, when he's able to go back to Kinsman Pool and dive in, that he really enjoys that huge big tank of water that's Kinsman Pool. So please do that, Dr. Judge. Enjoy your next time in the pool. So, to not delay this any further, you're going to drink your water. Every one of you, please. Unless you're on a water-restricted diet, please drink your water before you go home. Now, to express our gratitude to Dr. Zender, today the Canadian Club of Edmonton will make a monetary donation to a charity of his choice.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. And